Hey everybody, this is McGarren Flack. I've always wanted to test out the temperature in my orchards, see if these shade cloths really work. So here I am in the lower orchard, and I have this nice little thermal temperature gauge. And in the shade, this is 40% shade cloth. It is 107 degrees. But if I go outside the shade cloth, 144, 5 degrees, a 40 degree difference. That's freaking crazy. And this is with 40% shade cloth. On the actual leaf in the shade cloth, 100 degrees. I mean, isn't that amazing? Now, these are persimmons that I'm testing out. They were having issues when it was 90 degrees. And this being their first year, I thought I'd put shade cloth up to be able to protect them because I wanted to know what the temperatures were for all this stuff. This is another persimmon. I think that's the Sajo. And look at the new growth that is on there just by putting up the shade cloth. The old growth, that's the really nice dark green stuff, is doing fine. It's not as crinkly or crisp. But here I have the Marionberry that's in the shade cloth, and it seems to be doing good. And then these two guys over here, this is my Flavor King and Flavor Queen Pluots. And that's the old growth. It's cracking off right there, as you can see when I'm touching it. The new growth is nice light green. And here I have a potted mulberry. That's right, a mulberry. And it is 93 degrees on the leaf. And in the soil, it's 93 degrees, basically the same. But on the outside of the pot, look at this thing happen. 118 degrees on the outside of the pot. It is hotter on that pot than it is inside the pot. And the shadow that is being cast 109, and in the direct sun just next to it, 164. Isn't that crazy? 164, 55 degree difference, craziness. All right, so 164. If I go just 4 inches down, it's 108. So 50 degree difference, just 4 inches down. And here I take the thermometer just to kind of show you how deep it is. That's about 4 inches. 4 inches deep. Crazy. All right, here I used the shovel, dug in a little hole, went down about 10 inches. This is 10 inches down into the soil, 86 degrees. So another 10 degrees, 10 inches down. But I mean, 85 degrees, 86 degrees. That's a pretty good decrease in temperature. At least I think. So it's 104 degrees outside. 20 degrees less in the soil compared to what the temperature is outside. But here I just tested it, and it's 82 degrees on the soil that I just pulled out. So it's probably closer to 80 degrees, 10 inches down into that soil. And it's kind of sandy soil, so it does hold on to heat pretty good. Here I scanned further back in the shade, 121 degrees and versus 161 degrees in there. So 40 degree difference, and the shade cloth itself is 125 degrees for the shade cloth. So don't put your shade cloth really close to your stuff because it'll give you issues. Here I am in the upper orchard, scanning some of this stuff down. Again, the shaded area. This is about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I did this, 2 to 3 o'clock. But again, a 40 degree difference, almost 30, 40 degree difference between the shade and the wood chips. And just 2 inches down, it's 90 degree difference. Now, it did just water this morning, so that could make a big difference on whether or not the temperature decreased. But I thought I'd go a little bit lower into that wet soil, just 85 degrees, not too much of a difference between the wood chips that are sitting on top of it. Here, the leaf, 97 degrees. On this persimmon, this is a Raven persimmon, and then this is the Izu persimmon, and 105 degrees or so on the leaf there. Now, I went back out, tested at the top, and it's 174. So, I mean, we're almost at a 5 degree difference between the two. Just a couple inches down, it drops down to 95. So, having more than 2 inches of mulch is very important. Here I am on the rocks, 100 degrees in the shade. This has been in the shade almost all day. The northern side of my shed, basically 100 degrees. And if I scan where the sun has been hitting on the rocks, we are at 157. So a 50-degree difference between those. And if I scan the soil here in my starts, it's 86 degrees. And again, I did water it this morning, so that moisture is going to put the temperature down. But if I scan here in the sun, where it's been a little bit, 102 degrees, and that is not very good for starts. But I do make sure that a little bit of sun gets onto my starts. It still might be just a little bit too hot. The side of the plastic container, 95 degrees. That is pretty darn hot. Now we go to the grass. Grass is 92 degrees. Look at that. Phenomenal. It's 104 outside. And then it's 77 in the shade. No wonder people like to plant grass. But the problem with grass is it takes so much freaking water. Here I go in the concrete on the northern side of my property, 137 degrees in the sun, which is not too bad, I don't think. I thought it would be hotter than that, and 113. This part that's been in the shade has been in the shade for a really long time. So I just wanted to show the difference in temperatures between all these different plants. The ones that are in the shade, it's 40 degrees less, so it does help to have a 40% shade cloth to have things grow in the desert. At least when they're starting out. And as you can see right here, I'm looking at the cherry tree and the peach that's right next to it. These guys have been pretty well established, a year or two between the two. This peach is full sun all day, and it's doing phenomenal work. I mean, look at the color, the growth. I did lose all the fruit because of an early freeze, but that's okay. I'll get a lot more fruit next year. So because it's going to be so much bigger. Anyways, more established trees don't need to have the shade cloth. At least I don't think so. But new planted, especially persimmons, got to make sure those guys make it the first year. So I hope that this video helped, and please put down all of your comments below. Thank you, and have a great day.